Good evening and welcome into a brand new edition of Crunch Time Nightly here on ASTV Productions. I am Michael Wags, Wagon Connect, joined alongside, as always, by Scott Tobin and Joe Hamilton. Guys, back together again, and it feels so good. It's draft day in the NFL. The Cardinals and Blues are both in action. Playoff races are heating up, and tons of rumors going around in pretty much every sport. But first, I got to say, great to see you guys, and how have you been doing this week?
Really busy, man. Spending a lot of time at Busch Stadium, but it's been a fun week.
Yeah, it has been a fun week, and it would have been nice to come home with a St. Louis Cardinals win yesterday. I'm 1-2 now. What does that say about me going to games, guys?
Don't go to more.
Yeah, quit going to games.
But no, I'll get that turned around. Usually, I'm way over 500 when I go. So.
Well, and they had a good game today. Jumped out to a lead, had to hang on and win it in 10 in an interesting fashion. It was my first real look at the extra innings situation with the guy on second and all that stuff. But we'll get into that talk here in a little bit because today is absolutely dominated by the NFL draft. And normally we'd start with the NFL draft. But somebody in this league has to rise above and be above everything else. And that's a guy that we thought we were done talking about, at least for a little while, at least into the end of the season. But no. It's draft day, and Aaron Rodgers does not want to be the guy that's not talked about. And it came out today that he is so disgruntled with the Packers, so disgruntled, that he is not planning on returning to the team next year. But what does that mean about this year? Well, now the rumors are flying all over the place that Aaron Rodgers is going to be dealt here sooner than we think. And it's one of three teams. You've got the San Francisco 49ers, you've got the Las Vegas Raiders, and you've got the Denver Broncos as the three teams that are on Aaron Rodgers' wish list. Now, the draft's underway. The 49ers have already made their pick, and spoiler, they picked Trey Lance, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So that almost seems to put the 49ers out of the running. Well, the Denver Broncos have already made their pick as well, and they did not go for a quarterback. And Vegas has not made their pick yet. They're upcoming as well. But, guys, we talked about this the other day, and all three of us were of the mindset that he wasn't going anywhere this year. Him, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, it was probably going to be a next year kind of thing. Now, I'm not so sure, and I don't know what to make of this. What are your guys' thoughts?
It's really interesting. The really interesting part is the fact that the Packers GM came out, 2 days ago and said that their long-range plans were for Aaron Rodgers to be their quarterback for the foreseeable future, and now he comes out and says, I don't want to be there. Is it just smoke that he just, like you said, his ego is so big that he wanted his name plastered all over the place on draft day? Or is he really that disgruntled that he wants out of Green Bay? And if he did, quick question before Joe starts talking. If Aaron Rodgers gets traded, maybe, just maybe, Trey Lance is the quarterback that the Green Bay Packers wanted.
That's a very, very good possibility. And that's after drafting the quarterback last year. Do they really want two guys really pushing for that, two young guys? I mean, we saw the success that Washington had with Kirk Cousins and RG3 having two young guys kind of pushing each other. That might be the case. It's very, very possible. Build a trade around Trey Lance in a sense as well. But, yeah, there's a lot of rumors there. Okay, Joe, I know you've got your own fan opinion of it.
No, I know.
Take that. Well, I'll let you. No, we'll let you do your fan opinion of it as well. But first, take the non-fan opinion, the analyst side of it. What's the reaction and your thoughts there? And then you can give your fan opinion.
Okay, so my analyst opinion is, you know what? He's disgruntled for one reason only in my mind, because they're not giving him help or don't plan to give him help. I'm sure he's in those boardrooms talking to the higher-ups. What are you going to do for me? You guys going to get me anybody, anything? You didn't give the last quarterback anything, and he was still great. Look, Aaron Rodgers needs more help than just Devontae Adams. And I feel like the Green Bay Packers don't want to do that for him. But I did hear a rumor on this, and I wanted your guys' thoughts on this as well. Rodgers wanted to restructure his contract when he first went up to the higher-ups in Green Bay, right? When he first went up to the higher-ups in Green Bay, he wanted to restructure his contract to get more help, and that didn't happen. So now they're trying to do it again, and he's just not having it. He's like, if you're not going to do it then, I'm not going to do it now. That could be an ego thing, but that just seems odd to me. And the fan side of it, at least he wouldn't go to New England. That is my fan side of it, because that was my biggest fear all along, is the New England Patriots were going to be the team for Aaron Rodgers. That's just it.
Who's to say that it's not? The rumors are just that it was the 49ers, Raiders, and Broncos at the top of his list. It didn't say the Patriots weren't on the list, and it didn't say that the Patriots wouldn't come in and blow the Packers away with an offer. I mean, there's no trade clause that essentially says that Aaron Rodgers can't be traded to New England, or that he doesn't want to be traded to New England.
No, but those are on his wish list. You didn't bring up New England now.
Well, but that's his wish list, and we've already seen the Niners pick a quarterback. Denver hasn't. So, Scott, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to New England. You know, we talked about Russell Wilson and his ego and wanting to be in the big pond. Aaron Rodgers is wanting to go to California, to the West Coast. He's engaged to Shailene Woodley, who's an actress. He's working on being the guest host of Jeopardy. He's already said he'd like to have that gig full time. Aaron Rodgers is wanting to get back to the West Coast, get to a bigger city. He's decided he's too big for Green Bay, that he wants to be a superstar and all these other things. And that's what this boils down to, because the Packers came out in the last couple of days and have said their plans were to go out and, you know, like I said earlier, Rodgers was in their future for a long term, and that they were going to go get him help in this draft. And then this comes from Aaron Rodgers. So this is a power play by Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to go exactly where he wants to go. He's got all the power in this thing.
So is Denver close enough to California for that to be logical for him? Or is he really pushing to go further out? Is he really pushing to go to San Francisco? Because the Rams were an option earlier before the Matthew Stafford trade. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. Is it San Francisco more than likely, or is Denver close enough that he would accept a trade there and be okay with that?
I think he would be okay with that because of his relationship with John Elway and the fact that the Broncos are a high-profile team. But I think it's probably more likely between San Francisco and Vegas, to be honest with you, because we all know how much John Gruden loves Aaron Rodgers. He drools over Aaron Rodgers. So I would think that it's probably San Francisco or Vegas, if I had to guess.
I mean, here, I'd hate him to go to Vegas because I can't stand John Gruden. But San Francisco, that might actually work. But if I were the San Francisco 49ers, though, why would you draft a quarterback then? Maybe it is an alter, you know, thing where they wanted who the Niners have at quarterback now. But I don't know why you just don't make that trade now before the draft.
Because if you make that trade before the draft, who's to sit there and say a team at 1 or 2 doesn't take Trey Lance? You know, at this point now, right, the 49ers have guaranteed that Trey Lance will be a part of that trade. So now you go ahead and make that trade. And it also probably has to do with financials as well. I'm sure if you trade him before June 1st, there's a certain cap hit versus after June 1st, there's a certain cap hit. Because I think that's the same situation with the Julio Jones thing, is that the Falcons are so cash strapped that they can't trade him until June 1st just to make the money work. So that may be a part of it as well. And yeah, you really want to see if you're a GM, if you're the Packers GM, okay, and you're like, all right, 49ers, John Lynch, I want to trade you Aaron Rodgers, but I need Trey Lance, blah, 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 blah. And John Lynch goes, you know what? It's the week before the draft. I promise you, I will draft Trey Lance. Let's get this deal done. As the GM of the Packers, are you sitting there going, Dude, John Lynch, so trustworthy. I'm going to hold him to that promise, and he is not going to screw me over. And all of a sudden, something happens, and Trey Lance isn't there at 3 if they make that deal before the draft as well. So that's why you don't make that at that point. Now, if it was the number 1 pick, they probably would have gotten it done. It may not have been until draft day to really sit there and get as many positive offers as he possibly can. You're going to wait to the last second anyway to make that deal. But you're not making that deal before the draft, hinging on the hope that Trey Lance is there if that's the play that ends up being made.
Well, you got to remember, too, we've talked about Trey Lance and we've talked about Aaron Rodgers. There's another quarterback in this whole scenario that domino has to fall, too. San Francisco's got to do something with Jimmy G before they can bring in an Aaron Rodgers contract. So they've got to get him moved before they could make that next big move.
Getting a Jimmy G contract or Jimmy G trade, that's a big domino in this. And I feel like a trade to this magnitude would be a 3-team trade. Now, that's okay, why not?
Because you're trading Rodgers for Lance. So what does another team coming into that equation do?
Well, okay,
so you make a separate trade for Garoppolo. He also has a no trade. He also has a no trade clause as well. So he has to approve any deal that gets made.
So that would be okay. That would be the big snafu. I just didn't know if he had a no trade. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely the case.
And I think more than likely he's going to end up in New England before the weekend's over. That would be my guess. What could be really interesting is the Patriots are getting close to drafting. Do the Patriots grab Mac Jones here at 15? That could throw a whole bunch of stuff up in the air as well.
Well, they are officially on the clock right now, so maybe before the break or at the very least after the break, we will know the answer on if Mac Jones is going to the Patriots because there have been a lot of moves. There have actually been a couple of trades already. One of those has affected Scott's team, the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that in our next segment. But one other note outside of the draft that kind of made me go, man, another guy trying to get his name at the top on NFL draft day. Tim Tebow worked out for the Jacksonville Jaguars at tight end recently. Yes, we know Urban Meyer was his coach in Florida. He's like a son to Urban Meyer. But can Tim Tebow offer anything to Jacksonville at all? And if so, does he make the team this year?
It's possible. I can see Urban Meyer and that staff giving him a chance, giving him a tryout, letting him come to camp and see if he can make it. A lot of people have wanted Tim Tebow to move to tight end for a long, long time, and he resisted it. Maybe Urban Meyer is the guy that finally gets him to do that. And if he still has a little bit of that speed left, who knows? Maybe he can be a weapon every once in a while for that team. And the Patriots just selected Mac Jones.
There we go. All right, well, we'll talk about that when we come back from break. So make sure you stick around here for more Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And as you heard before we went to break, the New England Patriots have drafted quarterback Mac Jones out of Alabama. I'll be perfectly frank with you guys here. We did our mock draft earlier this week, and I had the Patriots moving up to select Justin Fields because he dropped a little bit. We knew New England was poised to take a quarterback if it was available. Are you surprised that Mac Jones fell to 15? And is he the best fit for the Bill Belichick offense?
I'm a little surprised that he fell to 15. But, if we talked about this a couple of months ago, and, back then I said I thought Mac Jones would be the perfect quarterback for the Patriots because of because of coming out of that system in Alabama and how similar that is to the Patriots and the relationship between Saban and Belichick and all that. So I'm surprised that he fell to 15, but I'm not surprised that the Patriots took him.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he fell to 15, but I really think this could work for the New England Patriots. This won't be a Tom Brady. I don't think we'll see a Tom Brady in New England again for a while or anywhere in the NFL for a while. A young quarterback, that is. But could he lead New England back to a Super Bowl? Maybe. Time will have to tell. He knows how to win. I mean, every year it seems like Alabama is in the running, if not the national champion. So having that winning pedigree is going to help big time. So, yeah, it could work.
It's going to be really interesting because he is definitely the mold of a quarterback that Bill Belichick likes. It's the same type of quarterback that Tom Brady was there for as many years as he was in New England. So it definitely makes sense. And you've also got the ability to sit him behind a Cam Newton. Yes, different style, but he can learn still stuff from Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a great quarterback and a great leader and mentor as well. So we can't discount that fact as well. And, talking about the fact that he was available at 15, you have to look at how this draft has played out because it got wild. Trevor Lawrence, obviously number 1 overall, was the presumptive pick for Jacksonville. That's where he went. Zach Wilson went to the New York Jets. We'll see how that goes. Good luck there, Mr. Wilson. Then we started to get a little bit weird. Trey Lance goes to San Francisco. And if he stays in San Francisco, it's not for this year. It's next year where you're probably going to really see him. He only has 17 career college starts, and it's not in a big power conference. We saw another quarterback recently that had a very small sample size of college starts, albeit in a bigger conference, and he essentially just got run out of town, and that's Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago, which we'll get to in a little bit there. If he stays in San Francisco, do you see the possibility that Trey Lance could be a Mitchell Trubisky 2.0? Now remember, Trubisky not a bad quarterback, but going up against the two guys in Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, he was picked above. He doesn't look all that great. Are we poised to see that in San Francisco or Green Bay if he gets moved to the Packers?
If he stays in San Francisco, I don't think so because he's going to get what Mitch didn't in Chicago. He's not going to have to start right away. If he's in San Francisco, Garoppolo's under contract for a couple of years. And, everybody said Lance maybe 2 or 3 years before he's really ready to be a starter in the NFL. So that may be the perfect situation if he stays there, because he can play there. He can learn under Garoppolo for the next couple of years and then take over. If he gets moved to Green Bay, then or somewhere else, then that would be interesting. If you send him to Green Bay, that would be really interesting because then you have him and Jordan Love, who nobody's really sure that either one of them would be ready. Would then the Packers have to go get a veteran quarterback to come in and kind of let them sit, both of them sit for a year? Would you go get a Nick Foles or one of those guys that we know are on the block at least to start the season? So there's a whole lot of questions. I think we have more questions in the quarterback carousel now than we did 5 minutes ago, to be totally honest with you.
And I think if he stays in San Francisco, he's going to have a little bit better of a chance than Mitchell Trubisky did in Chicago based off of the amount of weapons. I mean, what did Mitchell Trubisky have in Chicago? Mike or Robinson? You're really. I mean, that's the only weapon he had. So, and he has a good running back in Samuel. He has a couple good wide receivers in San Francisco. But if he goes to Green Bay, it's almost like a Chicago scenario. Yes, but he the reason why I say that, hold on, he has one great receiver. And Chicago scenario, I say that lightly. One great receiver in Devontae Adams, and two maybes in Valdez-Scantling and Lazard. So
two guys you absolutely fell in love with this past year, by the way. Just to get that on the table.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with to that. But I'm just saying, I saw what they did. I wanted to see them, have a turning point, but they really didn't in my mind. So I think he'd have a better shot to at least succeed in the short term anyway in San Francisco.
Are you forgetting about the one thing that Green Bay now has that Chicago didn't really have? Aaron Jones, a running back that can actually make a difference.
He has that in San Francisco. And
I'm talking about the situation with Chicago. You're comparing Chicago and Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago didn't have a running back per se. So even if he were to go to Green Bay, he has something that Mitchell Trubisky never had in Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, Mitchell Trubisky had a stud wide receiver and nothing else. And yet you're comparing that to Green Bay that has a superstar wide receiver, two pretty decent wide receivers, a running back, and a couple of tight ends. So basically, one star receiver in Chicago is equal to a superstar, two maybe wide receivers, a tight end, and a good running back in Green Bay.
Yeah, because you have one good receiver and one great tight end. And yes, I'm calling Robert Tonyan a great tight end. Is it too early to?
But you just said that.
Okay, but yeah, but I'm telling you right now, while they're okay, they're not NFL caliber in my mind in Green Bay. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing you have to realize: if Trey Lance goes to Green Bay, if they move them, he's not going there for Green Bay to be great this year. He's going to go there. They're going to draft. They're going to use those young receivers, Valdez-Scantling, and whoever they might draft this year, and they're going to build a team to compete in a couple of years from now. They're building for the future. If that trade gets made and Rodgers moves and they're going with these young quarterbacks, the Packers aren't playing for this year. They're playing for 2 or 3 years down the road and then the next decade after that. So you have to look at it in a totally different way than you looked at what the Packers did with Trubisky.
All right. So let's say Rodgers does get moved, and this is so out of left field, I know. Does Devontae Adams go with him? You know how good of a tandem they are. I'm asking you, Ag. Seriously,
we'd have to trade the entire San Francisco team to bring in Rodgers and Adams. You just said Adams was a superstar wide receiver. Like
I know, but certain guys follow.
You're barely putting a package together to bring a superstar quarterback to your team. If they're saying at 3 first-round picks is the going rate for Aaron Rodgers, what's it going to be for him and Adams? You're essentially trading 2 Ricky Williamses trade-wise for those 2 guys. No, come on. No.
Okay. All right.
No. All right. Yeah. Okay. That went sideways very quickly. All right. So let's keep rolling down the rest of the list here. At 4, the Atlanta Falcons take Kyle Pitts. Bit of NFL history there. Kyle Pitts, the first non-quarterback taken first in a draft as a tight end. Okay, the first tight end taken first as a non-quarterback in a draft. So you had 3 quarterbacks taken, and the first guy off the board, not a quarterback, is a tight end. First time in NFL history that happens. And in my draft, I had Denver trading up, obviously, to draft Trey Lance, not in Atlanta dropping down. But all along, Kyle Pitts was the guy, I think, for Atlanta if they did not trade down. And they've had success with tight ends, good tight ends in their history. This is a great move, I think, for Atlanta. Even if they do lose Julio Jones, I still think it's a great move for them.
So in my mind, this tells me Julio Jones isn't going anywhere. The Falcons just made this move. You're going to keep Julio Jones. You didn't draft a quarterback, so you got Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. You brought in Pitts. The Falcons are going to go for it and try to make a run the next couple of years with those guys, and they're not going anywhere.
No, they're not. And that team has always been an enigma to me, at least the last few years, because they've had too good of a roster in my mind to be where they were in the standings the last couple of years. Granted, they did have injuries the first year they struggled. But then they kept struggling even with the guys healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
honestly, outside of that Super Bowl season, when have all those guys been healthy?
You have a point there.
Yeah, they had too many injuries. You had 3 or 4 starters on defense last year that were hurt the majority of the season. Julio was never completely healthy last year. They just were kind of snake bit last year. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get healthy, see what they do the rest of this draft, and see what they can do. Although that division is going to be pretty tough to win with the Bucks and the Saints still there.
That is very true. Okay, next up, you had Cincinnati and Miami going back-to-back with wide receivers. Jamar Chase went to Cincinnati, Jalen Waddle to Miami. Just a quick touch on Cincinnati. Are you surprised they went wide receiver there and not offensive lineman, or is it just about basically getting Joe Burrow weapons when he does come back?
I'm quite shocked, to be honest with you. Knowing how Joe Burrow went down last year, you want to protect your biggest asset. And hopefully, maybe later in this draft, you can find a diamond in the rough to where, yeah, you can protect him. But, yeah, I thought they'd go offensive line first.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to find good offensive linemen in the second and third round. But Penei Sewell was the pick there. I mean, to me, that just shows why Cincinnati is a perennial losing franchise.
Very, very true. Well, and luckily for Detroit and Jared Goff, Penei Sewell was available at their pick, so they scooped him up. Carolina goes J.C. Horn, cornerback. Not too surprising there. I think they were looking defensively minded. We had Kyle Pitts dropping that point in some of our mock drafts, but defense is where they were going, and some of these big guys were off the board. And then Denver picks Patrick Surtain II, which essentially screws Dallas Cowboy fans' plans because they thought Surtain was coming to them. So that in turn starts the trade cycle. Philadelphia trades up with Dallas. They switch 12 and 14. Dallas also picks up 84 as well. And the Eagles jump up and draft Devonta Smith. Then you see the Chicago Bears trade up with the New York Giants to number 13, jumping ahead of Dallas, sending the Giants, okay, get this, 11 for 20, 164 this year, and then a first and fourth round pick in 2022. The Bears traded all of that to the Giants to move up to 13 to pick Justin Fields. And then you got Dallas sitting there just going, what? Okay, Micah Parsons, I guess. That's a good pick. The Dallas Cowboys had a lot of opportunities in front of them, and to see these guys go ahead of them, yeah, they didn't necessarily need a wide receiver, but maybe a quarterback, maybe a bigger name. Maybe Micah Parsons was the best that they could get after seeing Surtain go. But as a Cowboy fan, Scott especially, how are you feeling after that pick?
I actually love that pick. The Cowboys needed to improve their linebackers. They needed defense, to be honest. I thought Surtain would be there. That was the guy that everybody kind of thought. But I had Micah Parsons going, 7 to the Lions, I think. He's the best linebacker in this draft. You had your middle linebacker retire in Dallas this week. So Micah Parsons is the perfect fit for that Cowboys defense. I think it's a huge move. I think it's the right move, to be totally honest with you.
I had him going to New England like most people, and I had Dallas doing something else, especially maybe on the offensive line. Just to, like we said with Burrow, they needed to protect Dak Prescott, and I just thought they would go offensive line as well.
Dallas has one of the best offensive lines in football.
Then I know, but with the Dak Prescott injury, I mean, you had to shore up something there.
I mean, the Dak Prescott injury wasn't because of the offensive line. The defense was the way to go. And before we go to break, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on Justin Fields going to Chicago. Obviously, a few years ago, they traded up big time to draft Mitchell Trubisky. They sent a lot of picks to the Giants as well to move up and pick Justin Fields. Is he going to work in Chicago?
Oh, man, for Bears fans, I hope so. Like you just said, they gave up a lot to go up and get him again. Let's hope this works. Let's hope that Justin Fields doesn't turn out to be a bust like the last couple of Ohio State quarterbacks that have been drafted highly.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I have a little more optimism than you guys. I think he's going to work out well in Chicago. They just need to build around him. Hopefully they do.
Okay, are you scared as a Packers fan that you could lose Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields could bring Chicago to prominence?
Yes.
Oh, what a time to be a Packers fan. All right, well, that's the NFL draft as it is. If we have any other breaking news that pops in because of the draft, we'll definitely let you know. We're going to take a short break and come back and talk a little bit about the St. Louis Cardinals and the Major League Baseball action going on today, so make sure you stick around for more Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. Wags, Joe, and Scott bringing you all the action in the sports world today. Let's talk some baseball, all right? The Cardinals coming off of a disappointing game last night. Obviously, the Bryce Harper incident with him getting hit in the face kind of overshadowed what happened. The really, really nice news out of that was, and just once again shows you what a class act Bryce Harper was. Mike Schultz revealed today that he sent a text message to Genesis Cabrera and was like, hey, dude, I know it wasn't intentional. If you need to talk to anybody about anything, I'm here for you. Like, that's something you don't get a whole lot of. You don't see that a whole lot because of the vitriol and obviously what happened in Cincinnati and Nick Castellanos, that whole thing. But just an upstanding move by Bryce Harper, and you guys like to see that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge because you can see how devastated that Genesis Cabrera was, when he hit Harper and then when he got Gregorius in the ribs afterwards. So for Bryce to reach out to him, that's a good thing. And let's hope that Genesis is able to bounce back from this because he took it really hard last night. He was pretty shook up. So let's hope that he's able to bounce back and have a good rest of his season.
Do they send him to Sauget at all just to maybe kind of like reset himself? I know that was kind of like the talk was he might have been going to the alternate site, but do they do that just to kind of like reset his psyche possibly?
I think they'll probably give him another shot up here, probably in Pittsburgh over the weekend, see how he looks. And then if he shows signs of it still really bothering him, then I think you send him down. But I think they're going to give him a chance to see if he can compose himself up here first.
And Joe, your thoughts on Bryce Harper?
Well, it's really nice to see athletes like that, come back and say, you know what, I know it wasn't your fault. It was something that needed to be said, really, because that was vicious. And I like this caption. I think on I forget which social media, he's like 97 to the face, sweet. Like he just played it off like he was nothing. I like athletes that can joke over a bad situation.
Okay, so let's parlay that. I was going to move into the game today, but I want to parlay that into the Trevor Bauer stuff that happened earlier this week about, Fernando Tatis Jr. and the home runs and him getting pumped up about it and all that stuff. You must, in your mind, Joe, you must like what Trevor Bauer said and expect more of that. Scott, what about you? Are you one of those guys that if a hitter gets a batter, or if a hitter gets a pitcher, celebrate? If a pitcher gets a hitter, celebrate, and everybody should be all cool with it?
There's certain situations that is cool. Yeah, I mean, you can celebrate if you hit a big home run. I don't think you should be pimping a home run if you're down by 7 runs, which I've seen guys do. I mean, if you're winning a game, if it's a big game, then yeah, I'm fine with it. If a pitcher gets a big strikeout in a key moment, yeah, that's great. Just do it. There's the right way and the wrong way to do it. Just be respectful in how you celebrate. But yeah, there's definitely no problem with showing emotion in the right situations.
And then did you see Trevor Bauer's shoes too? The Castellanos shoes?
Yeah, that's Trevor Bauer. That's fine. It's kind of like the Free Joe Kelly shoes last year. That's just what he does.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's talk a little bit about that Cardinals game today. A 4-3 victory in 10 innings. Matt Carpenter hits a wall scraper of a 3-run home run to give the Cards a lead. The Phillies are able to kind of fight back against Andrew Miller, who goes on the IL today, along with Adam Wainwright, who's on the COVID IL. Probably not because of COVID, just more contact more than anything else. And then in the 10th inning, we got to see the whole runner on second base end up making a difference. Tyler O'Neill scores the game-winning run on a wild pitch, even though he went 0 for 4 today. Scott, you were down there. What was the atmosphere like in that game from the time Carpenter hit the home run through the 10th inning? Was it a big ebb and flow, or was it just a normal day game?
I mean, it was pretty wild after Carpenter hit his home run. The fans got loud. He got another standing ovation, another curtain call. After that, it kind of mellowed out. It was just a weird day today. I don't know. It was just kind of an odd day at the ballpark. But going back to the Carpenter home run real quick, that ball wasn't a wall scraper. That was an out. I was in right field. I was in the upper deck. I was looking down, watching that. That was in his glove, man. And like the first thing that went through my head was Matt Carpenter cannot catch a break because he had it. And then when his glove hit the wall, bringing it back in, he just literally dropped it in the bullpen. And it was like, shoot. And Carpenter actually said, I don't know if you saw his Carpenter's comments, but Carpenter said, if he makes that catch, I'd probably retire and go in the broadcast booth tonight because nothing's going my way.
So at the expense of a win, do we go back in time and let him make that catch?
Oh man, you gotta feel bad. You gotta feel bad for Matt though, because for the most part this year he hasn't been able to catch a break.
I saw him hit a ball. I don't know where you were last night, Scott, but I saw him hit the ball like literally diving play by the second baseman, and I thought that ball was in right field easily. So it's nice to actually see Matt Carpenter have some success, and maybe this is the right role for Matt Carpenter. Super pinch hitter late in the game. You need a run. Matt Carpenter goes out, hits you a ball hard, and maybe it starts a rally or he hits a home run.
See, the thing with that is, though, are you guaranteed that he'd get a hit or start around? Because he's batting .095 this year, okay? It's not like he's going up there and he's hitting .280 in a pinch hitting role. If that's the case, yes, totally. Keep him on the bench, bring him in those situations and what have you. But he's batting .095 getting regular playing time. So that's not something that I would sit there and say consistently right. I would want him coming off the bench. Now, if you need a guy to come up and drop a bunt down the third base line against the shift because that's what you need, he can do that. And yes, he can provide a little bit of pop. And don't take anything I say wrongly. I like Matt Carpenter. I wish him all the best. I hope he gets things turned around and can at least finish the season on a high note. Maybe he does retire after this year, but I hope if he does have to retire, it is on a high note for him career-wise. Maybe not a World Series championship, but career-wise, I want him to finish on an up note. So if he does get going and starts to raise that average and be more consistent, yeah, a guy out the bench that can provide some pop and be able to move runners over, yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit the ball hard, and I think he'll continue that. Go ahead, Scott.
No, sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you off. The only thing I'll say is, if it's not Matt Carpenter as your pinch hitter, what are your other options? I mean, it's not like we've got a bunch of guys on this bench that scare anybody. I mean, with what he's done in his history, Matt Carpenter is probably the scariest hitter the Cardinals have to come off the bench.
That's true.
Make a pitcher at least think about, oh man, this guy could hurt me, because who else scares you coming off that bench?
Surely isn't Austin Dean. I mean, that's the next best hitter in terms of power. He does have some power, but when he makes contact, and that's the big key term right there, he's got to make contact, and he really hasn't.
And you look at Matt Carpenter as well. At the very least, he does have the ability to get on base via the walk. He's still got a good batting eye to an extent. He can't catch up to the fastball like he used to, obviously, but he does have a good eye for the ball. And that's what happened the other night when he drew the walk and ended up scoring the run, the lone run the Cardinals had in that game. But it was all because he did work a walk. So, yeah, he's still the best option off the bench, but right now he has to play. Now, that being said, he may not have to play very much longer because you got a guy like Tommy Edman who may be able to go back to second base now because the Cardinals activated Harrison Bader today. So now you've got Harrison Bader going into the outfield to go along with Tyler O'Neill, who outside of the over 4 game today has been hitting well. You've got Dylan Carlson still in the outfield who's hitting well and in that 2 spot. Yes, he went over 4 today as well. The top 5 guys today were combined like over 20. So not a great day offensively for the Cardinals. But you've got Harrison Bader re-entering that lineup. Yeah, we got to see what he's got. But do you feel more comfortable now that you've got Bader in there with O'Neill and Carlson? You don't have to rely on Bader being the outfield guy. He can just go out there, play defense, and maybe get on base, hitting lower on the lineup. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it makes the team better just having him in center field, because then you can move Carlson back over to right, and I think you're in better shape defensively. And then whatever he gives you hitting out of that 8th spot, you'll take it. You hope he can steal a couple of bases, but I think his defense is the biggest thing. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, his defense is certainly needed. The outfield has not really been the same without him. Now, I will say this. Justin Williams has looked decent defensively. He's made some very, very good plays. But I'm not yet ready to anoint him a starting outfielder because of how he's played over the last week. So, and Wags, you brought this up. So I think this might be getting Harrison Bader back a little too soon.
Scott was talking about that.
Scott was talking about it. Thank you. Either way, this might be bringing him back too soon. I hope I'm wrong, Scott, but I think you're right. I think bringing him back now is not the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, if he is healthy, great. I was just concerned because they were talking about he might still be a week or so away. So I just hope they're not. This isn't a reaction to the fact that Justin Williams has struggled at the plate, and there was a couple of balls today that he got really bad breaks on. There were two balls that fell in between him and Carlson today that both should have been caught. I mean, they weren't errors, but if a Bader's out there, they make those plays. So I hope this isn't kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and they're bringing back Harrison when he's not 100%.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for the same as well. The Cardinals trail the Brewers by 2 games in the NL Central because the Brewers took down the Dodgers tonight 2-1. A couple of other games that have gone final. You've got the Orioles over the Yankees 4-3 in 10 innings. Both those teams sitting at 11-14. You expected it from Baltimore. Still not really expected from the Yankees that they're playing this poorly. The A's over the Rays 3-2. They got back to their winning ways. The Mariners a 1-0 win over the Astros. That was a pretty well-pitched game today. You had Kikuchi going into the 7th with a no-hitter. Ended up giving up just 1 hit, struck out 7. Trammell with the solo home run in that game. I know we talk about surprises and all that kind of stuff. The Yankees, they're in last. I'm still just very, very impressed with what Seattle's doing right now. Yes, it's still early in the season, and yes, the division outside of the A's is kind of mediocre in a sense, but I'm really liking what Seattle's doing right now.
I am too. They're letting their young players play, and they've been impressive so far.
Kyle Lewis, the rookie of the year last year, keeps on keeping on. You got Taylor Trammell. You have some really good young players on that team. Not to mention, you have former Cardinal Marco Gonzalez pitching well. It's always good to have a left-hander pitching at his best. And I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't think it is for 162, but it's a nice story early on. You usually have those.
That's very, very, very true. You also had the White Sox taking out the Tigers 3-1 in the first game of their doubleheader. Game was rained out last night. The Cubs a 9-3 victory over the Braves. You got to feel sorry for the Braves. I mean, they had a lot of expectations coming into this year. You lose Soroka early on, obviously with the injury he suffered last year. Then Max Fried goes down, and your pitching staff is kind of decimated at this point. They've been kind of treading water, and the East is it's a decent division. But do you guys think the Braves can tread water long enough to stay in it until these guys come back and then make a run, or are they poised to drop quickly?
I think they might be able to stay in it because I think that division, I think they're so evenly matched that they're going to beat each other up so much that I don't think anybody's really going to run away with it. So I think the Braves can hang in there at least for a while and see if they can get those guys back.
I would have to agree with that. You have the Phillies playing decent ball. You have the New York Mets playing decent ball outside of, when Jacob deGrom starts. Still, I can't believe his record in that ERA while doing what he's doing. What is he, 2-2 with a .51 ERA, and the Mets can't score for him? That's another storyline outside of that division to where, how does that even happen? If you're the New York Mets, how do you consistently not score when Jacob deGrom is on the mound? Usually
the Mets.
Wags. Usually it's the other way around, though. Don't you notice there's a pitcher on the mound? Don't you notice there's a pitcher on the mound and you're like, this is win day today, and somehow they come alive? It's the utter opposite for him, and it's just a weird trend.
Because it's the Mets. It's because of the Mets. That's just they do everything ass backwards. So that it is what it is. All right, we're going to take another break here on Crunch Time. Come back, talk a little NHL. Blues were in action tonight in Minnesota. Another wild no pun intended, game there. We'll be back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions after this.
Hey Crunch Time fans, my name is Graham Forsyth. I'm the host of Coffee with Graham and the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On Coffee with Graham, I talk to athletes, coaches, and whoever else involved in the amateur sports scene in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And on the Prospect Show, I talk to the best young hockey prospects from around North America. You can catch all the coverage on ASTV Productions. You can catch Coffee with Graham on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And for the Prospect Show, that show airs every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Hope to see you there. Have a good one.
And as always, make sure you catch all the great shows on ASTV Productions whenever you possibly can. They're on the website. A lot of great stuff there. Also, want to do a quick thank you once again to Derek King and Joe Roderick for joining me last night. Another great show. Make sure you check that one out as well. Talked a lot about potential relocation. Scott, I did get your question in about the St. Louis Stallions name, and Derek had a very interesting answer on that one as well. So make sure you check that out. All right, the Blues. Last night, they come back from a 3-1 deficit in the third period. They score with 23 seconds left to go to beat the Wild in regulation. And then they're back at it again tonight. Ville Husso in net for the Blues going up against Cam Talbot. Blues jump out to a 3-0 lead. They get a goal by Sammy Blais early in the first period. Actually, 3 minutes and 14 seconds in there. Nice shout out to the St. Louis zip code 314. And then Tyler Bozak, a shorty in the second period. Marco Scandella about 3 minutes later gives the Blues a 3-0 lead. They do give up a goal near the end of the second period to Joel Eriksson Ek to make it 3-1. Still, though, a very, very good and positive second period. It's something we cannot say very much with the St. Louis Blues. Then you get to the third period, and once again, just like last night, another wild third period. Kevin Fiala scores for the Wild to make it 3-2. Ryan O'Reilly notches a power play goal 4 minutes later. Victor Rask scores with 15:21 of the third period to make it 4-3. Then the Russian sensation Kaprizov scores with just under a minute to go to take it to 4-4 and send it to overtime. And oh boy, my gosh, guys. Oh, captain, my captain, Mr. Ryan O'Reilly, once again, taking this team on his back. Notches a goal about halfway through overtime to win the game for the Blues, gives them another big set of 2 points, and puts the Blues now 5 points clear of the Arizona Coyotes for fourth place in the Western Division. Still got 2 games in hand on the Coyotes as well, so that's just another positive there. I don't know if I'm believing in this team yet, but they're really showing me shades of 2019 again. Yes, the third period tonight, maybe a little hectic, but are you guys starting to get the vibes this team might finally be clicking?
Yes. If the fact is, if you make a comeback like you did the other night, you have to be feeling something. And I remember talking to Scott a little before that Wild series started. I asked him, what are your expectations for this team? Scott basically said he didn't have any expectations. Scott, I got to ask you, with how they're playing right now, are you starting to eat your words a little bit?
No.
Why?
Am I happy with the way they played the last couple of days? Yeah, but we've seen this team do this, where they'll have 2 or 3 games and they'll play really good, and then they go right back to where they were. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope Wags is right. I hope they do make a run like they did in 19. I just don't believe in it yet.
It is 4 games, and to Scott's point, after Jordan Binnington came out after that Vegas win and was like, yeah, we're coming, they ended up going on a 3-game win streak, and then they lost, and they didn't look good, and they lost a couple of games after that. But now they're back at it. They had 2 good games against Colorado. They've had 2 decent games against Minnesota. They got a third try on Saturday against them, another Saturday night game in Minnesota. And I'll say this, I agree with Scott to an extent about expectations, because you really can't have expectations because you don't know what this team is all about. Vladimir Tarasenko was out tonight, okay? He was a late scratch, a lower body injury, lower body, not shoulder, don't worry. But he was out tonight. And the one thing that I took out of this game was Sammy Blais was a guy that stepped up. Well, guess what? In 2019, Sammy Blais was a guy that had to step up as well, and he did that. You had to have guys step up during that run as well, because you had guys that weren't playing well. You did have some injuries that you have to deal with, And the same sort of situation is true now. What was one of the most dynamic players during that 2019 run? Just a quick question. In your mind, which guy that is currently with the Blues was a dynamic sensation in the 2019 playoffs?
Go ahead, Joe.
I could say Braden Shen, one of them.
I'm going with Robert Thomas. Okay?
Right? Yeah, he was a rookie.
Robert Thomas was a rookie in 2019, and he was electric. Well, all of a sudden, he's playing well again. In fact, he's shooting the puck. Okay, he scored the game winner last night. He had an opportunity tonight against Cam Talbot as well. You got him playing well and like he was in 2019. You got a guy like Jordan Kyrou who went into a little bit of a funk after his hot start. Now he's starting to play like he did earlier in the season, going to the net, putting pucks on net, making really, really crisp and good passes. You got Mike Hoffman scoring goals and showing emotion, okay? The other night when he scored that goal to tie the game up or to give the one either tie it up or pull him within one, the celebration he had on that goal, that's something we have not seen from Mike Hoffman this year at all. He was a guy that didn't seem like he fit with this team. Ever since the trade deadline, he seems like he fits with this team. And that all of that combined makes me a little like Joe. I'm a little optimistic. I'm a little like, okay, maybe this could happen. They've got a tough hill to climb because it looks like they're going to probably end up playing Vegas in the first round if they are the 4th seed, because Vegas is running away with the West right now. They're up 6 points on Colorado after a big victory last night. They do have a game in hand on the Avalanche, but that may not matter. I'm not sold on them beating Vegas, but they might make it very, very interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I think so too. As long as you have Jordan Binnington playing well, you have Colton Parayko back, you get Vladimir Tarasenko back. And here's the thing. With Vladimir Tarasenko, he's been playing more in the blue paint. You need Vladimir Tarasenko at this point playing in the blue paint. If he doesn't trust his shot or whatever, get those dirty goals. He hasn't been afraid to play that style as of late. And I know
playing in the blue paint is kind of illegal. That would be in the crease.
Okay, you know what I mean. You know what I like outside the blue paint, but right where the goalie could smell your farts, basically. You know what I mean? Like being a pain in the butt to the goaltender. Thing is, you get those guys back. The 7 defensemen, for whatever reason, this 7 defenseman setup they have is working for them. Back-to-back games in Minnesota playing with 7 defensemen, and they played well.
They did not play with 7 defensemen.
I thought they played with 7 defensemen.
They only played with 6 tonight.
Well, the only reason I say that is I was looking at the lineup for today, and nothing was really changed until Craig Berube stepped up to the media. That's my problem. But yeah, they're playing well. You had Billy Husso do what he had to tonight. He didn't have to be great. Just be there when your team needed you. And that's where he was.
So, hold on, wait. So, if he gives up a goal on the first shot and then doesn't give up a goal the rest of the way, we lambaste him. But if he doesn't play great and he's just there for the team and they win, it's okay. Well, so, like, we can't flip-flop on this at all. Like,
no.
If we're going to be upset at him for allowing a goal on the first shot and then stopping shots the rest of the game, but we're okay with him having a mediocre game in the race for the playoffs, that seems wishy-washy to me.
If this makes sense, it may not to you, but this is my thing. Why, when Jordan Binnington wasn't playing well, there was a stretch where Binnington wasn't playing well, and you had Husso who had to step up. Because Binnington wasn't playing well. He didn't step up. So, yeah, we were going to lambaste him. We were going to do this. But
he was standing up. He would allow a goal on the first or third shot or what have you, but then he would shut down the team the rest of the way. It was the team that couldn't score that really prevented him from being a winning goalie, right?
Not early on, but yeah.
If you're saying early on, that 8-0 game against Colorado doesn't even count, okay? That you throw that out the window. Billy Husso has been a good goaltender. Yes, he's given up early goals, and I get it. Tonight, he got the benefit of an early goal, and that's the thing. If you give a goaltender a lead, they are going to play with a little bit more confidence. They're going to be a little bit looser. With Billy Husso early in the season, it's, look, this is my first shot. I need to prove myself. He's probably a little tight, but usually when that first goal goes in, he loosens up and plays a lot better. You don't like going down early as much as you did with Billy Huso, but he stepped up and played well. It was the team that couldn't score in front of him that made those games look a lot worse than they actually were. We're looking at these games and we're looking at this season too much in small itty-bitty chunks. It's the same thing with the leadership thing with Ryan O'Reilly. Like, everybody's complaining that there's no leadership on this team. You got to remember, Alex Petrangelo, Jay Bouwmeester, Alex Dean, all three of these guys left. Your captain and his lieutenants are gone. Ryan O'Reilly does not know what his leadership style is here. He doesn't know what's going to work. It's taken him this long to figure out his leadership style, find the guys that are going to be his lieutenants to direct and lead in ways that he can't. It's taken him a while to get there, but I think you're seeing it now. He has taken this team on his back, and they're following his lead. That's the thing. That's why you can't look at a small itty-bitty chunk of the season. You have to look at the whole thing as a whole, and then you can sit there and say whether it's a success or not.
I totally agree with you, Wags. Real quick, jumping into the Mike Hoffman thing. Don't you think Mike Hoffman's probably playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder? Hey, I'm going to prove to you that you should have been playing me more, that you should be playing me in a different role all season. And so now he's playing to prove that maybe Craig Berube didn't do the right thing early in the season, plus the fact that he's playing for a contract at the end of the year as well.
Yeah, that's a major part of this. And Wags, I want to bring up a piece that you talked about at the deadline being moved, and he ended up not being moved for good reason, and that is Tyler Bozak. What do you do with him at the end of the season?
I don't think I ever said Tyler.
Well, you didn't. You said no. You didn't say that. You said quite possibly could be one of those guys that is moved. Question is, do you bring him back after this year? Yes or no?
I'd like to see him back. Yeah. I mean, I think I would make it a Schwartz then Bozak priority. I think Schwartz is definitely more important to this team. But yeah, I'd love to see Tyler Bozak back for another year. I think he's done enough. I mean, he scored the shorthanded goal tonight to get the Blues a 2-0 lead. It's not like he's had a huge diminishment of his skills, but yeah, I'd like to see him back. Okay, before we get out of here, real quick, we need to recap a little bit of the draft because we were talking about the Aaron Rodgers things, the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Well, the Raiders at number 17 draft offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood. So that's another wrinkle that got thrown into the system because now you've got a guy there that can protect Aaron Rodgers if he goes to the Raiders. We're going to have to really keep an eye on this over the rest of the night and the next couple days. Just real quickly before we get out of here, I just want your percentage on Aaron Rodgers being traded before the start of the season. What is your percentage that he does get traded before the season starts? Scott?
I'm going to say 20%.
Joe?
I'm going to say 30.
And I'm going to split the difference, 25%. I think there's definitely a 0.25% chance that he goes. So, all righty, guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed what you heard and what you saw. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow night for more Crunch Time Nightly here on ASTV Productions. For Joe, for Scott, I am Wags. Have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of the first round and enjoy all of draft weekend. We'll see you tomorrow night.